Greetings all, it's Chuke here from Chuke's Outdoor Adventures. Well, I recently stumbled across an article from the Alaska frontier and it's titled Surprising Bear Attack Statistics, Bear Attacks in Alaska. If you want, do a quick Google search on the Alaska frontier, Surprising Bear Attack Statistics, and it will immediately be at the top of the search list. But I thought it was very interesting. I did agree with some points from this study, but it was obviously very skewed. It was subjective, and I was pretty upset by some of the stuff they left out. Some of the stuff was right on, and there was some good information in here. Just some key points I pulled from the article was Alaska is accountable for roughly 29% of all fatal bear attacks in the U.S. It is very rare for bears to hurt humans as prey. I disagree with that. We'll talk about that. It would happen more often if people weren't so bear savvy. Up here, people aren't stupid. You go out with a bunch of bacon strapped to your back, you're going to get mauled by a bear, probably killed, and all your stuff is going to be taken. But people use bear bells. They're loud. They go in groups. They don't leave trash all the time. Some idiots do. They keep their food wrapped up. Typically, when I'm out in the mountains, in the woods, I see people being aware of the surroundings. If they weren't, these bear attacks would happen all the time. It's pretty interesting. I met this old nurse, and she was a nurse in Anchorage in the 70s, and she said they used to fly people in because, you know, we had less population then. The state was not as explored. It was more rural, and she said she saw some horrific maulings where people would be flown into Anchorage completely torn apart by brown bears and grizzly bears, just torn apart. I also want to mention that the attacks that we see in Wyoming and Montana are more severe. Now, the brown bears in Alaska have a lot of fish. They typically will ignore humans. That's why you'll see these areas where there's bear watching, and the bears have all the food they could ever want. When you go into the interior, they're a little meaner because the food isn't as abundant. And I believe it's the heat too. You've got a giant thick coat like that. In Montana and Wyoming in the summer, you know, it's 105 degrees. Those bears are angry. It's just like road rage in Los Angeles. It gets way worse in the summer. People are sitting in their hot cars, and you just get really grumpy and you just blow up. That's why these bears in Montana are ripping people's scalps off and just coming back and mauling them over and over. And in the summertime, in the interior, when it gets really hot, the bears are angry too. So in most instances, these attacks happen with sows and cubs, but even more, it happens to hunters packing meat. I've always said, and people will tell you this, in Kodiak, even Admiralty Island, when a brown bear hears a rifle shot go off, instead of running away, they will home in like it's the dinner bell, because they know that a hunter has killed a deer or an elk, and they can just take it from that hunter and you know, have a free meal. So they will come running at gunshots. They know what that is. They didn't mention curious young males. A lot of attacks will happen from a young male grizzly bear or brown bear, even black bear, because they're a little more brave, they're more curious, they may not have seen humans before. But also very old bears that start to go senile, they're starting to get agitated because their teeth are hurting, and they're just mean. So it goes on to say the National Park Service says chances of bear attacks are 1 in 2.1 million. I disagree with that. A lot of bear attacks go unreported. I've been charged by bears and attacked by bears, pretty much attacked, and I did not, oh, I better report this to some study. I think attacks happen a lot of the time, and we just don't hear about it, just like a lot of vicious attacks from humans go on, even in this city, and it goes unreported. If more people went out with bacon on their backs, like I said, it would be 1 in 20. So that's kind of subjective. Pretty interesting here, though. 66 attacks were recorded from the year 2000 to 2017. 47 were caused by grizzly bears, leading to 7 fatalities. Over the last 109 years, 66 people have been killed by black bears in the United States. 92% of the deaths have been caused by males. 88% of fatal encounters occurred because the bears actively pursued the victims as prey. And they say that that's uncommon, but if you go to Area 16B, which is kind of across the inlet here, there's a bunch of starving bears. When I went there, they were all skinny. They were literally hunting me, trying to take my food. I stayed up for 24 hours after I shot my brown bear because this big black bear was just harassing me. It was a nightmare. The bears are literally eating each other. In the 90s, Rick Rydell went over there with an AR-10 from a helicopter and took out a bunch of bears, and it was great for that ecosystem. And of course, people threw a fit. They recently, last year, the Fish and Game took out a good number of bears in another area, and people were upset. But they don't understand game management. This has to be done sometimes because these bears are killing cubs, which they do anyways, but they're just eating each other in some of these places where they're starving. Out of the 10 deaths by bear attacks recorded from 2000 to 2017, 3 were caused by black bears. There were 19 black bear attacks during that 17-year period. 15% led to human death. The bluff charges are very common. That is true. A lot of times, especially sows, they'll charge you and then stop, charge at you and then stop just to scare you. In Alaska, current average of hospitalization by bear attack is 3.8 per year. And I agree with that. That's how many make the news. I think there's more than that. And some years we may not have any bear attacks, and some years we may have a lot more in fatalities. This year, I have not seen a fatality in the news. I feel like every year I see 1 or 2 fatalities from brown bears. There were a couple incidents. There was a lady that got her face scratched by a black bear just within the last 3 weeks. And there were several black bears killed at, what was that lake? I'll put it up on the screen, but several black bears were just killed because they were, getting into camp and taking food and becoming a menace, which is very dangerous. 40% of fatalities occur after the injured victim is admitted to the hospital. That means 60% of deaths occur before the victim can get to medical care, and that sounds about right. Really sad story was that, I'm not sure if this was the one, I think so. A teen was killed by a black bear in 2021. In 2022, a man was killed by a brown bear and multiple hunters were mauled, including a 9-year-old boy. The sad story was the teenager that was killed a few years ago. It was on Turnagain Arm. It was during this race. It was like a marathon, and the black bear actually stalked him. He was on the phone with his mom, and it knocked him off a cliff. And then when they got the bear, it was feeding on the body. So bears will look at humans as prey, and they will eat you if they're extremely hungry. It's not very common, but I think it is more common than the writers of this article would like to say. It goes on to say, what can you do? Make noise, give bears space, stand your ground, all good ideas. That's great ideas. Bear bells, talking, going in groups is the smartest thing you can do, because then you can have one guy, shoot the bear, because the bear is only going to be on one of them. So they've mentioned bear spray, which I am a believer in. I think you should have bear spray and a firearm. Chuck from Alaska Ballistics regularly goes out, on his hikes with both bear spray and a firearm. It's a good idea. My uncle once had a black bear kind of approach him on a trail, and he sprayed a big cloud of bear spray and it just took off. I mean, it works, but I do have to mention that a couple years ago, there was a lady working for this mine. They went to a facility. They were not allowed to carry shotguns or firearms, only bear spray. A black bear came into the facility. They deployed bear spray. It blew right through the cloud of bear spray and killed the woman. So, I mean, it was either a severe attack, but I think it led to death. So if you go to Kodiak, people use poppers and shotguns, things like that, and they will tell you if you only have bear spray, that's like just adding a little paprika seasoning to the burrito the bear's about to eat. It's ridiculous. Nothing was mentioned about firearms in this article, so I have to say that the Alaska Frontier, I don't know if they're left-leaning or they're against firearms, but it just shocks me that an Alaska publication would do that. There is the study that AmmoLand did, and I was helping one of the guys with that, and they showed that handguns were very effective, even though a lot of people don't believe this, that in bear attacks, handguns have been extremely effective. Now, I'm big on 10 millimeter. I like chest holsters. A lot of guides kind of made this popular a good 15 years ago because you can wade through streams when you're fishing or hiking without getting your firearm wet. And when you're falling back, it's a little easier to grab your firearm really quickly versus the hip. I have an FNX from FN here, and it is chambered in 460 Roland, which gives me close to 44 Magnum power in a semi-auto platform. I can have 12+1 rounds of very strong hard cast ammunition with this pistol, and I will keep it in this chest holster. So that is kind of my hiking rig right here. I think a hunting rifle or a 12 gauge shotgun is really what you need, but you've got to go with a group. A lot of times a bear will smell you if he's really angry, or if he wants to attack you, he'll go downwind, circle around, and charge at you through the trees at 35 miles an hour and hit you from the side and just kill you and maul you. There was that horrible story of that guy on the Russian River who was blinded because the bear turned him sideways and bit his face off. And in the article, he said the last thing he saw was just the bright golden eyes of that sow grizzly as it was just a few feet from him. And then that's the last thing he ever saw. So be careful. Don't listen to articles like this when they say only bring bear spray. You want to have a firearm and bear spray. And we're starting off a new season yet here. I haven't heard of any fatalities, but it could easily happen, especially by the fall time, because it's more common for hunters to get mauled by bears, especially in places like Admiralty Island, where the bears know about gunshots and they'll just come at you to take your meat. So I will have a video up tomorrow morning. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Please become a patron if you can. I have links down below. It's Chuke, your friend in the field.
My name is Chuke. I like to trade my guns just for fun, but now I have none. Oh, look, get shot by a bear, but I don't care. I got a 10 millimeter. Chuke's Outdoor Adventures. Watch you go outside.